Thought this week we'd talk about ripening. Right there, I hope you see two jack-o'-lanterns, two different kinds of jack-o'-lanterns growing together. And I can't see what I'm showing you right now. The vines happen to cross, and they're two very different greens, but they're both green. And over here somewhere is one of those, I think they're porcelain doll pumpkins, and that is one that may have just been pollinated. They start out, it looks green there, but it's really white. And some of them start out yellow. And they ripen early in their development, and they stay the ripened color until you pick them. I am guessing that the two pumpkins I have harvested already were ripe. I think they are porcelain doll, and porcelain doll is a maxima. That is the family of pumpkins that the giant pumpkins are in. Of course, porcelain doll is not a giant. Maximas come in all shapes and sizes, but generally they are quite different from pepos, which is what the jack-o'-lantern pumpkins are. So anyway, as I said, maximas ripen early and keep growing while they're ripe. Generally, pepos do not. So pepos will be green up until the moment they are ready to be harvested. And once you harvest them, well, you shouldn't harvest them before they start turning orange. Like this one is nowhere near ready. It's green on the outside, it's green between those little netting designs on there. If you harvested it now, it would rot. So I'll show you my goodness, I'll show you a ripened pepo. And I'll be right back. So far, there's one more over by the door there. But this is the stupendous pumpkin for this year. I think this is going to be, it's going to come in at about 19 pounds, 18 pounds. Big guy. That is a pepo, and as you see, it's not quite ripe yet. There's the netting, and the orange is between the netting, and when the pumpkin is fully ripe, that will disappear. This is a bushy orange, and got a little attitude. You know, it's not very interesting on this side, but the other side looks pretty interesting. There's something that bored into it, though, so we may have to get rid of this one. Yeah, this is bushy orange, and as you see, it's a pepo. Again, the green netting will disappear when the orange takes over, and actually it has disappeared in a few places on this pumpkin, but I didn't see that when I harvested it, so I'm going to have to throw that pumpkin out because it will rot if something got into it like that. Here are the porcelain dolls. One of them is pretty big, this guy here, and the other one's a little bit smaller, but they're kind of a pinky orange. And a little bit of green in there too. So that's what they look like ripened. I'll talk a little more about ripening in a second. No big loss, because we got a bigger one out here that's growing nicely. Should probably prop it up on some kind of a stone or something like that so it doesn't get bored into by a worm or whatever, because that does ruin your pumpkin. And let's see, here's another one over here. Yeah, these are both bigger than the original one was, and maybe we'll have more interesting ribbing. I don't know if I'm going to grow bushy orange next year. There's another pumpkin that the name I've forgotten. that is more interesting and is about the same size and is short vine and is powdery mildew resistant too. Anyway, we'll talk next week about choosing pumpkin varieties. This is a candy corn. Candy corn starts out yellow and then turns orange very early in its life, so it's a little bit more like a Maxima, but it is listed as a Peppo. So there are a lot of variety within pumpkin varieties. They don't necessarily all follow the same rules, but the rules I've given you are pretty standard. So yeah, I think that's probably all for this week. I will see you next week with a video about choosing pumpkin varieties. So I'll see you then. Have a good week. Couple things I forgot. I decided to make this video after remembering years ago on my pumpkin group, a newbie was asking, when do I harvest my pumpkins? I think they were talking about jack-o'-lanterns. And as was a common problem in that group, a giant pumpkin grower chimed in and said, "You don't harvest them until they're orange." And I already knew at that point that that wasn't true. Matter of fact, I've heard that pumpkin farmers actually deliberately harvest their pumpkins when they're not totally orange. The fact is that you can harvest jack-o'-lanterns and probably should harvest jack-o'-lanterns when they're not totally orange. It frees up the energy of the plant to create more pumpkins, and also it doesn't hurt the pumpkin at all. So yeah, you can feel free, as long as you see a considerable amount of orange between the netting, go ahead and harvest your jack-o'-lantern. It's not a problem. So that was the one thing that I remembered. And what's the other thing that I remembered? Ha! I didn't drink any coffee yet, and I have absolutely no memory right now. But anyway, that was the important thing I wanted to tell you. The important P.S. So I will see you next week.